Hello and welcome to This Is Us. I'm Becca King-Reed. This week we're in Saratoga at Montalvo Arts Center. This place was built on 175 beautiful acres. It was built by a former San Francisco mayor and senator of California, James Phelan. The Mediterranean-style villa and exquisite Italian garden were left to the people of California for the encouragement of arts, music, literature, and architecture. We'll take a peek around the villa and learn more about the interesting man who built it later in the show. We'll also meet Stanford student and the youngest venture capitalist, Ernestine Fu. She is a young woman to keep your eye on if you can keep up with her. She's always on the go, tackling just about every subject imaginable. And Brian Wong, a 20-year-old entrepreneur and the youngest person to ever receive venture capital. He finished college at 18 and is the CEO of his own startup in San Francisco. And finally, one of the true giants of Silicon Valley, co-founder of Apple Computers and programming legend, Steve Wozniak. We've got a lot of great stories to share, and it all starts now.
This is us.
This is us.
This is us.
Welcome back to the Montalvo Arts Center. We are in the Love Temple, where many a wedding has been performed, and from here we can see the beautiful villa and the wonderful Italian gardens. And here to tell us about the man who built it all is Angela McConnell. Thanks for inviting us in.
Thanks for being here. James Phelan was the son of a prominent banking family in San Francisco and was mayor of San Francisco twice, and also was the first popularly elected U.S. senator from California. Prior to his election, senators were appointed. He was also a lover of all things artistic. He was a true patron of the arts, and this gift that he gave to people of California is in evidence of that.
Now, when you say he was a patron of the arts, he had artists come and live here.
He had artists from all over the world come and stay with him, writers and poets and visual artists and musicians. They would stay right on the second floor of the house and live for months and even a year.
He was a resident, a native San Franciscan. Why did he build his home here?
He loved building his home here. He was 50 years old when he started building Montalvo, and it was because he had suffered in the loss of two of his homes in San Francisco due to the earthquake, and he wanted to live in a climate like Saratoga, and he really enjoyed what this land gave to him. He loved trees. He brought unique specimen trees from all over the world, and it's part of the arboretum that is Montalvo.
Ah, so the garden.
Yes, yes. So we are in the Italianate garden that was lovingly rehabilitated by some very enthusiastic and passionate garden supporters, and I'm just thrilled with the way that it has turned out. Montalvo had the bones of this garden 100 years ago, but it was really in disrepair. And they came in, a team of wonderful gardeners, and made it what it is today. And an Italianate garden is very specific design. It is modeled after the gardens in Italy that is very symmetrical in design. So you will see these beautiful, tall, stately cypress trees flanking it, 300 of a singular color rose bush, and you will see fruit trees, citrus trees, orange and lemon and lime. It's just a beautiful place to come and meditate. And at the base of the Italianate garden, you often would find, in Italy, specimens of succulents called a cactus garden. And lo and behold, when the volunteers looked deeply into the grounds here, they uncovered the bones of a cactus garden. With help from Foothill College's horticulture program, we have now just a breathtaking example of what Phelan's vision was.
Well, thanks for bringing us here. This is really beautiful.
Thank you.
We'll be back with more from Montalvo in just a minute, but first, we're going to meet Ernestine Fu. She's the youngest person ever to give venture capital. And she's also a full-time student at Stanford. In her spare time, she's writing a book with her professor. She's one busy gal. Take a look. Most Stanford students are accomplished. Ernestine Fu brings new meaning to the word.
I started working at a venture capital firm when I was 19 years old, founded a nonprofit when I was younger, also currently a student representative on the Stanford Board of Trustees, voting member on the Committee on Land and Buildings, also started a course at Stanford this past quarter and co-authoring a book with Dr. Thomas Ehrlich, former Dean of Stanford Law School.
When I was your age, if we wanted to have an impact The book that Ernestine Fu and I are writing together as co-authors is about how and why young people should be involved in public service. The book has 7 basic lessons about effective involvement in public service, and each of those lessons has 2 parts. One that reflects my own efforts over the past years. The other are Ernestine's.
Working on the book with Thomas Ehrlich has been really exciting, not only being able to reflect on my own experiences, but I also wanted my part to include those of other youth, so being able to talk to them and just meet people across the country and over the world who are engaged in public service, so it's really exciting.
And on the day we were there, things got even more exciting.
I was going to tell Ernestine that she was accepted to the graduate program here today. We just decided that this afternoon.
This is Ernestine's 2nd master's program at Stanford.
I would wake up around 7:30 in the morning, so my day's usually scattered with classes, and in between those classes, I'll schedule meetings, coffee breaks, lunch breaks, and meet with different student entrepreneurs.
It doesn't matter if you're a web company, an iPhone company, an enterprise company.
Ernestine is taking 24 units this quarter, twice the amount an average Stanford student takes.
I'm mostly taking classes in the Civil and Environmental Engineering department and also Management Science and Engineering. Geek at also partners, he complements.
In addition to that, this young powerhouse developed and facilitated a new course at Stanford.
And you have 20 seconds to pitch.
This entrepreneurship course, she did this herself as a student. This course was one of the most highly oversubscribed courses in all of Stanford this year. And it was a lot of work, but it's really being successful.
The youthful entrepreneur even made it onto the cover of Forbes magazine.
When I first saw my face on the cover of Forbes magazine at an airport in Florida, it was definitely surprising.
As if that's not impressive enough, this 20-year-old works part-time as an associate at the venture capital firm Alsop Louis in San Francisco.
At first, I didn't even know what venture capital was before I got to Stanford.
That has all changed. Now Ernestine is a much sought-after VC on campus.
Well, talking about Ernestine, you're talking about a unique person. I mean, her breadth of activities are beyond the scope of belief. What she does for us working as a venture capitalist, this is a very, very smart lady. She is really a big brain.
Ernestine began at the firm in March of 2011 and made quite an impression.
She started off with a bang. Within about 2 months, she had already connected us with a number of companies.
I found this company 2 Stanford PhD students around April, and then the deal closed in June.
And Ernestine's activities don't stop there. Tonight, she's hosting her first entrepreneur event. She typically attends 2 mixers like this each week.
This is the first time I'm actually throwing a mixer as opposed to just attending one, so very nervous.
My name's Ernestine Fu, and I'm a 3rd-year undergraduate and a 1st-year master's student here at Stanford. And as many of
The
you know,
evening went off without a hitch, and Ernestine spoke with every attendee.
Just wanted to thank everyone for taking the time to come here. And
After one of her typical action-packed days, Ernestine likes to relax. On the firing range.
So shooting a gun, I'm not 21 yet, so I can't actually shoot a handgun, but I've been shooting rifles and shotguns, and it's just a lot of fun, so don't worry, I didn't kill anyone yet.
Even off the range, Ernestine gets a bang out of life, despite her jam-packed schedule.
Other things I do for fun, taking on skateboarding and skydiving and just hanging out with friends.
Those who know her say Ernestine can do just about anything she puts her heart and mind to.
Her future is whatever she wants to make of it. I wouldn't be surprised if we're not telling Facebook kind of stories about Ernestine in 10 or 15 years.
Welcome back to the Montalvo Arts Center. Angela McConnell and I are now in the Spanish courtyard, and it is here where you get the hint for the name for Montalvo. Tell us about that.
You do indeed. As you look at this beautiful fountain, you will see the name Garci Ordóñez de Montalvo. That is the name of a 16th century Spanish writer who, in his book, coined the phrase California for the very first time. It described a beautiful mythical place where there were Amazon women and griffins all around. And Senator Phelan just loved this idea. He was very playful. And so if you wander around Montalvo, you will see griffins all around. It's part of our logo for the centennial year. So yeah, he just absolutely adored California, so much so that in one letter that he wrote to his longtime friend Gertrude Atherton, he said, "If I owned California and heaven, I would rent heaven and live in California."
Well, that's how many of us feel about
Absolutely.
California. Now, he really had a feel for the Mediterranean, and he brought a lot of that here. Tell us about the Mediterranean touches.
He did. It's all over the villa, and he brought in things like a 16th century stained glass window, which has these 3 ships in the center, and he brought back beautiful statuary. We saw some of it in the Italianate garden. It was very eclectic, though. It's not a Spanish type style.
No.
It's very Mediterranean.
It has a very classic look.
Right, and that's partly because of who he was. He had influences from France, from Italy, from Spain. Certainly he just loved being in this place of California, so he made it comfortable.
Another of the beautiful pieces here are the doors from Spain.
Yes, beautiful, and they are hand-carved, and they have pictures, depictions of Queen Isabella and Ferdinand, and they are just one of the highlights of a visit here to Montalvo to see them.
We'll be back in a minute with more from this historic estate and a visit with Steve Wozniak. But first, we're going to meet a young man who graduated from college at age 18, and now at 20, he has his own company in San Francisco. He calls it Keep.
I'm currently 20 years old. I graduated college early at the age of 18, and I recently started a company called Keep, and so far to date, we've raised over $4 million.
Brian is the youngest entrepreneur ever to receive this much funding.
I came up with the idea for Keep when I was actually traveling after I got laid off at my previous job. I was spending a lot of time playing games on my phone, and then I noticed that everybody else around me was seemingly playing a lot of games on their phones too. So the question was, how do we create the right connection between brands and consumers? And so of course we realized, hey, what if we could reward people?
And that's exactly what Brian developed, a reward system that gives people real prizes for achieving high scores on their mobile devices.
So how the rewards layer works is that, imagine you're playing a game that you love already. You're hitting achievements, you're leveling up, you're getting top scores, you're excited, you're doing something meaningful. In that moment, you'll be notified with a reward, and in order to redeem, you put in your email address, you type it in, and you tap redeem. And then you'll get an email instantly with the redemption information in it. So you actually immediately go straight back into the game and you can continue playing. Thinking about this, but the participation is going to be threefold.
When we first met Brian, it was pretty obvious that he saw the world the way we did. He saw that the advertising model on mobile was completely broken. And he brought us an idea that was something that we saw instantly as sort of the holy grail of marketing. Brian's the type of entrepreneur we like to fund. He's got the passion that makes people want to follow him.
On the day we were there, famously untouchable webpreneur MC Hammer dropped by to talk shop.
The exciting thing about Keep is that they're approaching a whole new space, creating a whole new space that will, revolutionize the way you engage in, social games. Not changing the experience, but you'll have a certain expectation down the road. You won't want to play anything that doesn't give you something back.
And I would even make it long enough. When Brian came to us, he was looking to raise $4 million to take 3 guys and an idea, and they wanted to build a company and go prove that the vision that they had was something they could build a company around. So we gave them $4 million to go and do that.
So when we first heard we were getting funding, the initial round actually just felt very relieving. I knew that we wanted to do this. Our hearts were committed to it already. And it was just a matter of us realizing that now things that we wanted to do would happen.
Brian has been making big things happen as long as he can remember.
So I skipped grades 2, 7, 9, and 11. And then I graduated college at the age of 18. My mom and dad came to Canada in the 80s, and in very sort of humble circumstances. They've never really been pushy as many people may assume stereotypical Asian parents would be. Like, they're not pushy at all. In fact, they never forced me to do anything. They always gave me the choice. During the dot-com boom, I was 8 years old.
It was around that time that Brian got his first computer.
But I remember my dad coming home and going, I don't really know what you can do with this, but I just know that you probably would want to figure something out with this, and just kind of plunked it there. I had a lot of fun with my first computer, and it really got me excited about what the possibilities were.
At age 16, Brian was 2 years into college, had his own web design business, and played ice hockey on the side.
I spent about 10 years playing ice hockey. So a lot of that type of gameplay, I think, helped me sort of be very active on my feet. And that, I think, contributed to why I'm so instinctual in the way that I do things. I want to announce this next week.
Now at 20, Brian is heading up a different kind of team.
So I think we've built something really magical here, and it's really not been a function of me. It's been a function of everybody coming together. My goals today are to build this company into $1 billion business.
He's fantastic about taking ideas and bringing them to life. He's great about empowering a team.
My dream for Keep is really to see rewards become a part of everything in life.
Welcome back to the Montalvo Arts Center. It may not look like it, but we're at the pool. Tell us about this area.
We are standing in what's called now the Oval Garden, but beneath our feet was the original pool. And in the late 50s, it was covered over, but it was the site of many a wild party in Senator Phelan's days. And we have wonderful black and white film footage of him diving off the diving board with many, many friends. Now it has a calmer purpose, but nonetheless more exciting. People take their vows here.
Oh, really?
In the Oval Garden.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes.
Oh, well, it's beautiful.
Yes.
It's definitely fabulous. Now, Mr. Phelan was quite the entertainer.
He was. He had writers here. Certainly Gertrude Atherton came many times, but he had Douglas Fairbanks and he had Mary Pickford. He had many presidents were here. The Roosevelts were here. The entire Notre Dame football team came here. Not Stanford, but Notre Dame.
Now, speaking of entertaining, he built a theater here.
He did. Right behind us is the theater that's actually named for Lillian Fontaine. She was the first artistic director of Montalvo.
Oh my gosh.
And it is a beautiful outdoor garden theater with 1,250 seats. We have Shakespeare performances there. We have popular concerts. Shakespeare was something that Phelan loved. Montalvo had a history of performing Shakespeare plays, and the Lillian Fontaine family really got involved with that. Her daughters, Joan Fontaine and Olivia de Havilland, are still with us, and they have been supporters of Montalvo.
And they were Bay Area gals, weren't they?
They were Bay Area gals. They lived in Saratoga, and in fact, their mother's ashes were distributed here in the Oval Garden.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Now, to accommodate all these guests, Mr. Phelan built quite an unusual garage. Can you tell us about that?
He did indeed. It's now called the Carriage House, and it was his original garage. It's now a theater, and it's named for Lillian Fontaine's best friend, Claire Loftus. But in Phelan's day, it was where he parked his car, and he did not like to go in reverse. So he had a turntable at the base of the garage, and he literally hand cranked to turn the car to be in the right direction.
So he could drive out. That's a great story.
Yes.
Well, we've got one more beautiful place to show you here at Montalvo, but first, we're going to meet a local legend, one of the co-founders of Apple Computer, Steve Wozniak. With just one switch, the world would never be the same.
Beep, and I started typing, and things appeared on my TV set. And I knew, oh my God, this machine is here.
The machine is better known today as the Apple Computer.
So this is the product that really launched the company. This product became so successful after some other good lucky things happened. We had all the luck, but we had the foresight, you know? And it was the finest engineering work I ever did in my life, and some very clever ideas to bring sparkle and magic and a lot of fun to computers. I am so glad for my part in making computers fun instead of boring, I don't know, engineering devices.
Thus, the birth of one of the most iconic brands ever launched in the 20th century.
It was just a little thing we're doing on the side. You didn't think it was going to be a big thing in your life. You know, you're going to make $1 million or something. No.
Little did he know. Steve Wozniak, affectionately known as the Woz, was a whiz kid who grew up in the heart of Silicon Valley.
I had a very lucky childhood. I was exposed to a lot of engineering principles, and I was sort of very advanced both mathematically in school academics, and I had a ham radio license by 6th grade, so I was really heavy duty into the electronics. So I had this life of just building interesting projects and doing weird, far out things my whole life.
Wozniak's curious nature was nurtured by his father, an engineer for Lockheed.
Whenever I had a question, he would help me learn what I had a question about, whether it was atoms or space or stars or electronics.
But Woz wasn't just your average geek.
I was on swim teams for my school and earned a block letter, and I was on track in my school and played a lot of, if I played football with my friends, I was always the star, and baseball, I was the all-star. I had a really good sports education, so I did that. I wasn't like a nerd who also is just sort of too weak to ever even to be going out and doing one of the school varsity teams.
His deep-rooted diligence and athleticism earned him rock star recognition during his early years, but by junior high, it had worn off.
And all of a sudden, I was kind of left out of other people's thinking. So a lot of my development towards real computers happened in that time.
Woz spent that time honing his craft until a fateful introduction by a high school friend changed his life forever.
He said, "You've got to meet this other guy, Steve Jobs, because he goes to our high school, Homestead High School in Cupertino, and he knows electronics and digital electronics, and he also liked pranks. He had done some pranks at the high school, and I was well known for always looking for pranks to do." So Steve and I met, and we discussed things, and wow, we hit it off.
In January of 1973, while attending UC Berkeley, Steve landed his dream job with Hewlett-Packard.
They hired me to design their handheld scientific calculators, and this was like the greatest product in the world. It was like the iPhone is today. The HP 35 calculator, the first scientific handheld calculator ever. That's the one that changed everything for the world. This calculator cost $400 when it was new, the HP 35. $400 in today's money, what is that, $2,000? So they were very valuable, and then I was working on designing some of the chips that were in these calculators from Hewlett-Packard. Yeah, it was a real highlight of my life. One of the greatest companies in the world, and I wanted to work there forever. I would be an engineer for life at Hewlett-Packard.
Lucky for us, that was not the case. Jobs convinced Woz to go into business, and it was a match made in high-tech heaven. In 1976, they launched Apple Computers and debuted the Apple I at the Homebrew Computer Club, a DIY gathering for like-minded engineers. It caused a commotion.
That kicked off the inspiration that caused a lot of people to start believing we could have a computer in the home someday. And when we started talking about it, we were thinking an ugly little box like this would be in people's homes, if you can believe that. No, it had to be a little different.
Wozniak's design genius, paired with Jobs' marketing magic, proved to be a fruitful collaboration. Apple II hit the market and changed the landscape of personal computers.
We both knew this was a change in the world, and we got, chilled, and we knew that was a eureka moment. We knew this product you don't give away. This is going to be the big hot one of all time. These were the 3 early personal computers, and that people started buying at an affordable cost. They could all do the same thing. You could write your own programs. So they were very good. It's just that the Apple II was the exceptional one that had color and graphics and games and expandability galore. So that's where we really got the lead and took over the world with the Apple II.
With a cult-like following, Apple became one of the most powerful companies on the planet. But Wozniak never aspired to world domination.
I was having fun. I think Steve had a lot more of the business mentality, and I avoided the business mentality because I'd come up just believing that, big businessmen, a lot of wealth and the greed that goes with it, it corrupts you.
Despite his humility, the fame and accolades kept coming, and in 1985, he and Jobs were awarded the National Medal of Technology and Innovation by President Reagan.
Never ever dreamed of being this big. When I did the important stuff at Apple that gets me here, I was so shy. I wouldn't even talk to people. And then when I went to shows, computer shows, and people came up and said, "Can I have your autograph?" I thought, you don't ask engineers for autographs.
Unfazed by his phenomenal success, Wozniak went back to UC Berkeley and finished his degree in engineering. He also taught fifth graders and sponsored music festivals, including one of the first U.S. rock concerts in Russia with the late Bay Area legend Bill Graham.
Bill contacted me, gave me the impression he'd been contacted by the Soviets with this opportunity, and I picked up from his voice that it was something he'd been wanting to do for a long, long time. It was a major move, kind of a change to the world, a significant event.
And within a minute, his first major question was, "Can I have 4 tickets?" I'll never forget that. Within the first minute, "Can I have 4 tickets?"
The notoriously hard-nosed New Yorker was won over by Steve's modesty.
I think Steve is basically a trusting, honest, decent, good person. I know that what he represents is quality.
And loyalty. Wozniak's generosity is evident in his hometown.
I grew up in San Jose. Every school I ever went to, I would, when they call and ask for money and contributions, I would give it to those schools because it's where I came from. And I was born in the city of San Jose, and I cared so much about that city. And now I helped create a great museum there. And so I did the same thing, contributing the early big seed money for the Tech of San Jose and the ballet company. And, you know, to get these, to kind of like my city, you know, help it grow up in the direction of a San Francisco, culturally.
From whiz kid to celebrated icon to beloved philanthropist, Steve Wozniak's humbled spirit and infectious curiosity is what endears him to his many fans. What is the secret to his success?
The best thing is don't get attached to things have to turn out a certain way. The world just kind of flows, and whichever way it goes is right. It's just how it went. But really the keys to my happiness came about when I was about 18 to 20 years old, working it out in my head, what kind of person I'd be. From then on, I had the keys to happiness, and all this other stuff didn't matter. Apple success and that. I would be designing neat things no matter what.
Well, it's just about time for us to say goodbye, but we want to take one last look at the beautiful Montalvo Villa and tell us, what are we looking at, Angela?
We are standing in front of the gorgeous Spanish doors. These are 16th century. This is this beautiful southern gumwood, and it's a form of eucalyptus that is hand carved. Senator Phelan brought Italian artisans here that lived in the house and did this exquisite work.
Wow, well, this is just one beautiful thing amongst many in the home. What are your favorite?
Yes, to the right is the billiards room, and to the left is his library, and there's circadian walnut there that's just breathtaking. Also, lots of memorabilia, beautiful photographs, as I mentioned, and it's just a place to come and see this extraordinary vision of this man that is left for people to enjoy.
Now, we talked about, I mentioned in the beginning that he had left it to Californians, so, or everybody really.
He did.
And how does that work? How can we enjoy this place?
We are open 363 days a year. Senator Phelan left the estate to the people of California to enjoy the art, and that's what we do at Montalvo. He left it for promising students, he said in his bequest, and I feel that we're all promising students. So I hope that people will come.
And you do have entertainment here.
We have concerts, we have performing arts, visual arts, literary arts. We have an artist residency that hosts 60 artists, writers, composers, musicians from all over the world. We have camps and education programs that serve 15,000 children every year. And we have a very vibrant performing arts series, both in that Lillian Fontaine Garden Theater and in the Clara Loftus Carriage House.
Well, thank you so much for inviting us in and showing us around. This has really just been a wonderful afternoon.
Absolutely our pleasure.
For all of us, this is us. I'm Becca King-Reid from Montalvo Arts Center, saying good night.
This is us.
This is us.
This is us.